Ryan Baudoin is from Lafayette, Louisiana, and you study business management at the University of Louisiana, and worked in AT&T technology space. Then you moved to San Francisco and working on SaaS platform, which is the new thing. Everybody's on that.
Software as a service.
Yep. And then you joined Cisco Meraki. So, what made you go from SaaS to Meraki? Nice.
Long story?
Long story. Yeah, I'll come up. Thank you. As far as why I swapped over from the SaaS platform over to Cisco Meraki, I wouldn't say that it was a very conscious decision of, I really want to get into networking. The company that I worked for before, which was owned by Intuit, a lot of my coworkers who had ended up moving on from that company had come over to Cisco Meraki, and everybody ranted and raved about how great the product was, that I didn't need to be a networking expert in order to come in and sell it. And that's what I will intro myself with, is I am not a networking engineer by any shape of the word. I am a salesperson first and foremost. We have much more intelligent people than I am who usually help me with the more technical side of the sales process. When we go through the presentation today, the dashboard, what it all looks like, will be a pretty high level overview. If you've got very technical questions, I will try my best to answer them, but I may end up having to exchange emails with you and get on the phone with a sales engineer with you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So let me log in here, pop this thing back up.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
I'm sorry, I forgot to
Sure.
thank you for all the food,
Oh.
pizza, and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Ryan Baudoin. You did a great job pronouncing the name. Most people kind of butcher it, and as you should. It's a very French Cajun last name. I'm from southern Louisiana originally. I sort of wound up in the San Francisco area almost by mistake. A friend of mine who was working at Intuit for about a year ended up randomly giving me a phone call. I was happening to be looking for new work, to moving out of Louisiana, which is where I was born and raised. And she asked me if I would be interested in coming to work in San Francisco, California, which I couldn't really say no to. So I went out there for an interview, and now I'm here. My background is really in sales. I've been in sales since I was 17 years old. I used to sell door-to-door insurance. I've sold suits at S&K Menswear. I've worked in retail at AT&T, selling mainly these guys, lots of iPhones, lots of Androids. And that's really where I kind of started dipping my toes into some sort of the word of the technology space. Which helped me get the job that I had over at Intuit. At Intuit, I started in sales and then moved over to what's called customer success, where we basically took a relatively simple product, but helped people utilize it a lot better. The idea was that we wanted to proactively reach out to our customers and help them with the software before they decided to, hey, you know what, maybe this isn't working for me. What we found was that a lot of people just weren't utilizing the software correctly. And so moving over to Cisco Meraki has been pretty wonderful. It's a stellar product. I'll give you a quick little background on Meraki. How many of you have heard about Meraki before? Anybody not hear about Meraki before? This is brand new. Okay, awesome. Cisco Meraki, or actually before Cisco acquired Meraki, there were a few guys who were students over at MIT. And what they were doing is they were trying to give internet access away to a lot of the students over at MIT. So they were putting these very small access points that they were designing on the roofs of all of the different buildings, and they determined that after a period of time, those devices had to be troubleshooted. You had to go in and make configuration edits and things like that. And they were really tired of climbing roofs to go in and troubleshoot these things and make configuration changes. So they decided, yes?
That wasn't just MIT, that was the low-income housing unit,
Yes.
the whole rooftop thing.
Yeah, the whole Free the Net project.
Yeah.
Free the Net project. Yeah, it started at MIT, and then whenever it expanded to this thing, they were trying to give the internet away for free. But the whole problem that they were facing was just going in and troubleshooting these things. So they thought to themselves, well, why, if these things are connected to the internet, our computers are connected to the internet, why can't those two things talk to each other and we make configuration changes and do troubleshooting there? And that was really the birth of Meraki. Back then in 2003, we didn't really call it the cloud. We didn't really have that idea, but that's essentially where we have born and bred. We have been doing this business in the cloud since day one. Fast forward a little while, we caught the attention of Sequoia, which is a VC venture capitalist firm in the Bay Area, also Google. These were early investors. And then we actually started this as a for-profit business at that point. So we started selling access points, and it's all we sold for quite a while. We'll go through and you'll see in the slide deck the timeline of everything. So we started with access points, and shortly later we started with switching. And Cisco, we caught Cisco's eye when they started to try to develop the same thing. And it's very, very difficult when something is born and bred in an on-premise solution, and then you try to convert that on-premise solution into a cloud version of it. It's apparently quite difficult to do. And what they were learning was they were losing business left and right to this very small company called Meraki, and they're Cisco. This is a $150 billion company. How are we losing business to these guys? And so they decided, you know what, if we can't beat them, we'll buy them. And that's exactly what they did. They bought us about 5 years ago, and since then we've expanded the product line. I want to try to get a feel for the room to figure out kind of who is in the audience. So I would assume we have people here who may be like consultants. Any consultants in here? Yeah. Yes? Oh, okay, a lot of you are consultants. Resellers of any kind, right? If you're a consultant, I'm assuming you're probably reselling too. Any end users, like I'm a customer, I run a company and we may utilize Meraki or Aruba or HP or anything like that at the same time. Who did I miss? Students? Students.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Full-time employees, internal employees.
Internal employees as well, yes? A couple of you. All right.
I'm here for the pizza.
All right, let's dive in. Let's see if I can do this over here. Let's go to next. All right, Cisco Meraki, this is our mission statement. So, technology can connect us, empower us, and drive us. And at Meraki, we believe by simplifying powerful technology, we can free passionate people to focus on their mission, right? Technology that simply works. So, technology. This is something that helps us every single day. We're all in the technology space, and it helps people do their job. It helps businesses run, and it moves lightning fast. If you are familiar with Cisco, with your APs, with your switches, your ASAs, your catalysts, you know that those are complicated products. If I am a small business owner and I buy a small full stack of a security appliance, a switch, and an access point, and I plug those things in, I am going to get a black screen with a command prompt. And you got to know a totally different language in order to get those things to work. Those are not simple solutions for the everyday person, right? So, if you imagine being a small one-person IT team in a business that continues to grow and grow and grow and grow, but they don't have money for more of you, you now all of a sudden start troubleshooting all day long when you can't work on the project that you know has to get done. Oh, we have we have to install 30 new APs. but I still have to make sure that those existing APs are running. And I'm getting calls all day long saying, I can't connect to the AP. The printer's not working. I don't know what's wrong with this switch. There's a cable out, right? So what we want to do is free those people to solve those solutions really, really quickly so that they can get back to what they love doing. Yes.
My experience with Meraki is mobile device management.
Okay.
Where does that come in?
Mobile device management is going to really be about, so if this is if Meraki, if you think about the hardware side of things, the access points, the switching, the security, as the infrastructure of the network, MDM is going to manage these. We will jump into that in a little bit. I don't want to dive too much into it, but the basics of it is there's two types of devices that you're going to bring to your business. You're going to bring your laptop that is potentially owned by the company itself, or the cell phone or the tablet that is owned by the company itself. You're also going to bring your own personal phone, your own personal iPad. And what we're finding today is that I believe the stat is about 60% of the problems and the malicious viruses and malware that are getting into corporations, it's not getting in there because somebody's clever enough to hack the network. They're getting in because of these. Because you go home and you connect to Starbucks, and that Starbucks is a wide open network, and somebody puts something dangerous on here, and then we connect that to the corporate network, and because of that, now all of a sudden we have problems on our corporation network. Right? So MDM, your systems manager, is going to protect these devices. It's going to allow us to push out different policies. If there's password protections on your phone, it may, now all of a sudden you have to have a password. And you have to have a 6-digit password that has uppercase and lowercase and numbers. You can't just have the 4-digit. So it's going to make sure that those policies exist. We can also push out applications directly. We can push out updates to those as well. And if there's a jailbroken device, it's not allowed to connect to your network. Make sense?
What about being able to track and order it to kill itself,
Absolutely.
announce itself?
You can do more with the corporate-owned devices. Again, if I am going to go and connect to my corporate network, I don't necessarily want them tracking my personal phone. That seems like a little bit of an invasion of privacy. But if it's a corporate-owned device, absolutely. We need to know where that thing's at. We also can do geofencing, where basically if you take this phone too far away from this classroom, this phone now all of a sudden doesn't work. Right? Same thing with your iPads. Your iPads are getting stolen, now all of a sudden it's a brick. The only way it's going to get back online is it comes back into that geofence. Right? If we want to track it, if we want to kill it, if we want to wipe the device, you can do all of those things. But we typically do those things with the corporate-owned devices and not with the personal devices. So, since 2003, which is when we started, the industry has changed a lot. Back then, again, the idea of any sort of cloud anything was a little scary. And I think today we're kind of moving along the lines of like, well, this isn't as scary as it used to be. We're moving away from having servers and data centers hosted on premises. And we're used to things like, hey, Dropbox. Got a lot of sensitive information, a lot of very important information, a lot of secure information, and we're throwing that on Dropbox. We're doing AWS for hosting our web services. We're not hosting that in-house anymore. Why? It's a lot cheaper, it's cost-effective, you don't have to hire all that equipment, and you still get all the security that you need and all the functionality. Same thing with email. We're utilizing Google and Yahoo and things like that for our email so that we don't have to host these things right on site, which again, it costs us a lot of money. So today where Meraki is, we are 100% cloud managed. So the biggest difference, and for those of you who aren't familiar with Meraki, we have a whole suite of products, from access points to switches to security appliances. We also have phones, we have cameras, and we have MDM. All of these things are managed in the cloud. They're configured completely and utterly in the cloud. And you can, it's all a GUI system, right? This is all a very visual, easy to use system. You don't need to know any CLI, although it is helpful to know it, especially if you're going to use Meraki APs and maybe an on-prem solution for your security or your switching. All of this is going to be done in a way that anybody can go in and start tinkering with things. Customers are demanding simplicity. I don't know if you guys recognize this logo. Sure you do. Apple's the most profitable company in the world. How in the world did they do it? They did it by simplifying these really complicated things that we were using. You guys remember the Palm Pilot?
Yep.
The BlackBerry?
Yep.
Why don't smartphones look like that anymore? When's the last time you saw one that looked like that?
Because there was not enough screen and too much keyboard.
Not a lot of screen, too much keyboard. What did they do? They took that Palm Pilot, that BlackBerry, and they made it this really easy, nifty, fun thing to use. They were not the first ones to create smartphones, were they? No.
Actually, Apple was.
Did they?
Yes, they
Oh,
introduced the iPhone in 2007.
Well, correct, but you're not going to tell me that the BlackBerry wasn't out before that. That was a smartphone. It was an internet access phone, right?
Yeah.
Right? Same thing with Palm Pilots, right?
Those were widely used.
Yeah. Same thing with tablets. Tablets existed before the iPad, but the iPad really perfected things, right? Because why? It simplified things. Before the first Apple computer, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys probably know this better than I do, which came out first? Did the Apple GUI system come out first, or did Microsoft come out first? Windows.
The PC came out first.
Which one, but it used DOS, right?
Yeah.
Correct. If you didn't know DOS, you couldn't use a computer. So who changed that? These guys. We demand simplicity. We all want access to this technology. We don't want it limited to the select few who only know the CLI or only know MS-DOS. We all want access to this powerful technology, but it's got to be simple and easy to use. And Apple has done that. So we know, hey, cloud, we're getting more and more used to that. Customers demand simplicity. Let's make our technical APs, our switches, let's make them easy to use for everybody. One last thing is we want the right data at the right time. We want good data on our, to make good business decisions. Uber was a great example of doing that. Uber didn't look at all the complex data that drives taxi companies. They looked at two pieces of information. Can you think about the two pieces of information that Uber uses every day to make their business work?
Users and drivers.
Users and drivers. Where are you? Where's the closest driver? And where do you want to go? We will get you there. That's all you need in order to, so you want the right data at the right time, you want simplicity, and the cloud is a cheap and affordable way in order for us to deliver those things. You had a question.
I'm thinking about Apple and their simplicity, and two thoughts. One is that behind this, what appears to be simplicity is extreme complexity.
Absolutely.
But the second thing is that Apple had a special advantage over the PC, which is that its market, which is 5% of the computer market, didn't have to worry about any of the legacy stuff that Microsoft had to worry about. And so essentially, they achieved in some ways, one way of achieving simplicity was by focusing on a market that didn't have the kinds of demands.
Sure.
And I'm just wondering if there's an echo of that. I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of it to see if that you have to deal with that issue as well.
You know, we will touch on that. I think that what you're going to notice right now is there is a place in the industry. The majority of the networking infrastructure is on-prem, and there's a slice of that is cloud. But that slice is starting to get bigger. We're going to look at a bell curve a little later. I don't know if you've have ever seen this adoption bell curve, but whenever we look at it, I utilize Apple to talk about it. Like these early adopters or the innovators, you know, those people who had the first iPhone. Whenever you bought the first iPhone, you didn't get the $200 iPhone. You paid $700-800 for it, and then more and more people started to get it until you have like the laggards, the guys who adopted last, right? And I think that Apple's almost there. Nearly everybody today has an iPhone or some sort of Android or smartphone device. So do I think that the cloud networking market is the biggest part of the market? By no means, no. It's still a very, very small slice, but that slice is growing, and it's going to continue to grow. And we'll talk about what Chuck Robbins, the Cisco CEO, said about that exact thing here in just a little bit. So, speaking of, our CEO, Chuck Robbins, mentioned on a webinar or a call, I think this was back in December of last year, that over time he expects the bulk of wired switching, security, and other networking infrastructure to shift to a cloud-based management model so that they too can benefit from these solutions. And again, those benefits are things like simplicity, being able to troubleshoot remotely, configure remotely, deploy an entire organization in a matter of minutes or hours instead of days or weeks. The cost savingsness of going to a cloud management model is tremendous. It's not for every single business. It is right now still for a niche of clients. But that niche is growing. You know, we started out in a small business space, and we are quickly growing into the mid-market, the enterprise level space. You know, we have one person, literally one person manages the entire suite of all the Motel 6s in the entire country, and they are all Meraki, and they are managed by one single person. That is absolutely insane. I think there's like 130,000 different Motel 6s in the country alone, and one person manages those. That's the power of the cloud. Now, can that one person do everything? No, of course not, right? They troubleshoot all the issues, and then they hire somebody locally to go in and make the edits that they need made, but they troubleshoot and diagnose the issues, and sometimes that can take even longer than actually just solving the problem. I have a switch cabinet with 30 different switches and something's going wrong. I can't tell which one. I know one of the cables is bad, but now I gotta do a cable test. That can take a long time. With Meraki, it can literally take you about 12 seconds just to test every single cable in that switch cabinet. We'll show you that in just a little bit.
As long as they keep the light on for them.
That's right. we can do it without even the lights on. We'll do it without the lights on. Electricity needs to be on, but the light switch can be on. So Cisco is recognizing future market trends. When they scooped us up, they bought us back in 2012. Since then, Juniper has acquired Aerohive. That happened in 2015. This is another cloud managed network. Fortinet acquired Meru, another cloud managed provider. HP acquired Aruba, another cloud managed access point system. These three all happened in 2015. Cisco was the first one to do it, one of the first major players in the game to recognize this type of technology, buy it, and start pushing it. And it has paid off in dividends for them. We're going to talk to you in a little while about where we were in 2012, where we got acquired, and where we are today. The biggest difference between these companies and Cisco Meraki is the fact that most of these companies, right, this is switching and this is APs, right? This is security, this is access point. This is networking, you know, switching, routing, Aruba access points. We are the only system that I know of on the market that will, under one single pane of glass, you can manage everything on your network from end to end. You've got your access points, you've got your switching, you've got your security, you've got cameras, you've got phones, and you've got your mobile devices, all on one screen. Whereas if you go with another network, you may have 3 or 4 or 5 different logins, different things that are disjointed. You may be having a problem with your access point, and you call Aruba, only to figure out there's nothing wrong with your access point. It's actually your switch that's the problem, right? So you're calling 2 or 3 different manufacturers just to find out, where do I get the support that I need? What is wrong? With Meraki, it's all under one belt, all under one single pane of glass.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Now, in the past few years, people have been going through IoT a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So now, in addition to the regular devices, now we have, you know, sensors everywhere.
Sure.
They are connected to the internet. You need to have security because before it was no security at all. You could just access and do whatever you want. Do you do something for security in terms of IoT devices, or is it just regular?
I suppose I would need like a better example, whenever I think Internet of Things, I think about my house, right? Like I have an Amazon Alexa, right? One of those Echoes, and I have a switch that plugs into here, and I can go on my phone, or I can tell my Alexa, hey, turn this thing on, and then that switch comes on, it turns on a lamp, right? That's what I think of whenever I'm thinking of the IoT. That is going to all go through my network, which should already have the security attached to it, right? Because we have security with our MX device, or our UTM, which is our security device. That's where I would assume that the security would live. Am I missing?
Yes,
Okay.
because I came across a bulletin several weeks ago, and I've been meaning to repost it, that IoT devices, especially the Amazon Echo,
Mhm.
Dot, the Google versions, are notoriously wide open and hackers can hack them so that the microphone in the device, they can actually listen into what's going on in your home
When it's not supposed to be.
when it's not supposed to be. And
That's
they're notoriously wide open.
Then I would be under the assumption that at this time, not in the Meraki world. I don't think that is something that we cover right now. I can't speak to the rest of the Cisco world though, because I know the Internet of Things, the IoT devices, there is a space in Cisco for all of that, but unfortunately that's outside of Meraki.
And these devices, you know, you've got that device, you've got your computer, you've got possibly your TV, and
Yeah.
maybe a couple of other devices, which means they're all going through a router. So they're notoriously wide open. And the net in the router is not gonna stop a hacker.
But maybe a firewall or firewall rules might be able to help out there
Possibly.
in the security device.
I would assume so. I would assume that if there's the policy set up within the firewall itself, which ours is really like a firewall and a router all in one. We call it a UTM, Unified Threat Management Solution. I would hope that is where all of that stuff is being stopped, is on that level. But again, I'm not technical enough to know. Yeah.
I guess this is one of the big concerns that a lot of us who work with customers on a daily basis. This is a wonderful change.
Sure.
I don't want to be climbing on the roof either. I totally get that. But I think a lot of us have found that we're trying to find a balance, and I think it sounds like the market's trying to find that balance too. Because when you point out this is not a niche that suddenly everyone switched over.
Sure.
I think that we find a balance, for example, between online backup and having a hard drive on site that actually has the data on it. And I think we should be thinking about this as we're looking at Meraki and we're learning about it, that there is greater risk once things are cloud-based. The cloud by its nature is a risky space because it's so exposed.
Sure.
It's exposed to the entire world, including a lot of patient people in Nepal with nothing but time on their hands. And so, so I think we ought to be, one thing I for one would ask your company to be thinking about is working really hard to both make your systems more secure so that we can trust them more and feel more comfortable with them. And second, figure out how we can do hybrid solutions so that there can be some hardware protection, some local protection that provide. We're big believers in layers over here.
Sure.
Right? So that would be one of the things that as you're talking, I'd be really interested in hearing about.
Sure. I'll speak to a little bit of that now. As far as security, number one, between Cisco and Meraki, security is one of our number one concerns. It's one of the number one priorities we focus on. I do agree with you. As far as the hybrid solution, the hybrid solution already exists, right? If I have, let's say I have my access points that are all Meraki, but then I have on-prem switching and security that is not Meraki, maybe it's Cisco, maybe it's Juniper and Fortinet. That's absolutely possible. Just because you have a Meraki access point does not mean it has to work or it will not work without a Meraki switch or security appliance. It will work with other devices. You'll get a little bit more transparency into the other devices if they are Meraki, but by all means you can certainly have a Meraki AP or a Meraki switch without any other Meraki device out there. For the cloud itself, we have, oh good God, I think in the United States alone there are at least 3 different backup data centers. So your configuration that lives up in that cloud, if one of those data centers goes down, it's not like all of a sudden your configuration is gone. In the United States alone, we have 3 different data centers that all your configuration is backed up. Now, one of the questions I get a lot of the times is, well, what if my internet goes out? What happens? Does my network just stop working all of a sudden? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. What ends up happening is the latest version of your configuration is cached on each and every one of the devices themselves. If your internet goes down for any reason, your local area network is still working just fine. Now, if you need to make changes to that network, I want to change a policy, or I want to update an SSID, I want to change a password. We do need to get back online in order to change that configuration. But 9 times out of 10, or probably 99 times out of 100, your main goal is getting back online so your business can actually function more often than it is of I just need to update an SSID or change a quick policy. Now, if you do have to, if it is a dire emergency, there are ways to bypass that where you can plug directly into the switch and you can do some configuration there. But you're going to get a lot better of an experience if you are on the cloud managed side of it yourself. So we talked about this, and we talked about this innovation adoption curve, bell curve here. I look at this and I think, whenever I look at this, I think of Apple, right? The 2.5% of your innovators, this is when the first iPhone ever came out, right? These are the guys who waited in line.
Josh Turio.
What's that?
One of our guys, Josh Turio.
There you go.
Waving around the Apple phone.
He was there. He was there for the first day, right? Waiting in line for hours on hours, camping out. Spent probably $800 for a very simplified version of this, where it didn't have a front-facing camera. The most cool, it didn't have an app store. The coolest thing it had on there was YouTube. That was mind-blowing that you could have YouTube on your phone. We didn't even know what apps really were back then. There was no app store or anything like that. Those are your innovators. Your early adopters, this is probably your iPhone 3G, iPhone 3GS, right? Now all of a sudden, like most people who are in like college or, you know, right in their first jobs out of college, younger people who are maybe somebody who's in the networking space is like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna get me one of these. The invention of the App Store was mind-blowing. All of a sudden we're playing Angry Birds on our phones for the first time. Your early majority and late majority adopters, these are like, for me, this is when my parents got an iPhone. When my parents got an iPhone that blew my mind.
iPhones here?
What's that?
Are you selling iPhones?
No, I think about it. I relate it to that, right? Because and it's a trend we all remember, right? And it wasn't that long ago, 2007, 10 years ago, that nobody had these devices. And then the laggards. Like this is whenever my grandmother got her first iPhone. Right, like everybody else had one. She was diehard. She was going to stick to that old school just flip phone for a long time. There you go, you got one. And then whenever she got her iPhone, she put it in her hand for the first time. She was sold. She loved it. Right. So with Meraki, we're here. We're at that 3GS stage. Right. We're going to have these early majority and late majority adopters. More and more people are going to be migrating over. The reason that I know that is because of the growth that we have had over the last 5 years. And let's talk about that growth. Let's look at it. 5 years ago, 2012, we were doing $100 million a year before Cisco acquired us. Right? We had 15,000 customers and 100,000 devices between those 15,000 clients. Most of that was wireless. We were just starting to get into switching. Fast forward 5 years. Does anybody want to take a guess where we are at today with what's our yearly run rate? How much did this go up by?
3 or 4 billion.
Ooh, that's high. That's really high. Not quite that high, but I like where your head's at.
1.5 billion.
1.5 billion. Within 5 years, we did $1.4 billion last year. That is an insane growth. We've been doing more than 50% year-over-year growth since the acquisition. We have over 130,000 customers, and we have over 1 million networks worldwide. We've taken over pretty much all the United States and Canada, most of Europe. We're also in Australia, a lot of APJ, South America, Central America, parts of Africa. We're all over the place. The growth has been absolutely explosive. Now, when it comes to that sort of explosive growth, we also expect our support and our bugs and the issues that we have for that growth to be just as high. And for us, it has not been. You can look over here at NPS. Anybody familiar with NPS scores? The way NPS scores work, so anytime you go to any sort of store and they're saying, hey, can you rate us? You know, you have an experience with us. Can you rate us anywhere from a 1 or a 0 to 10? If you ever give somebody a 9 or a 10, we look at that as a +1. That is a good thing, right? We give you a +1. If you get a 7 or an 8, that's a 0. That is looked at as a 0. 0 through 6, it's a -1. Right? You give somebody a 6 because you think they did it okay, you're actually saying like big thumbs down. If you gave somebody an 8 because giving them a 0. If you give them a 9 or a 10, you're giving them a +1. Right? So we utilize this. This is an industry standard benchmark. People like Wells Fargo, Google, Amazon, AT&T, Verizon all use these benchmarks. I don't know if you've gone to any one of these stores lately and they ask you to rate their service. This is what they are utilizing. So if you look at Apple, one of the highest rated companies out there, they're at a 72. It's pretty great. Google, 53. Anything that is actually a plus, that is in the positive, is actually considered very good. If you are literally a 10, that's actually considered good. Most like Comcast, most cable companies, they're definitely in the negatives. They're absolutely in the negatives. Meraki's NPS were at 67, right? Higher than Google, slightly lower than Apple. Bugs, support cases. Our support cases number per dollar has continuously been falling. Most of the calls that we are getting are not for bugs or mule incidents, right? Those have dropped tremendously over time. What we get calls about is, hey, can you help me configure this? I don't know how to do this. It's mainly trainings, tutorials, and just showing people where certain things are in the dashboard and helping them along the way. It's less than 1% of the time is it, I found a bug. There's something wrong with your system. Something's broken. We actually even have programs out there that we pay people to go and find bugs for us so that we have these bug reports going down constantly. Sure.
So you are part of a bug bounty hunter system?
I believe so. I don't know that in technical name, but if we're paying somebody to go find bugs for us, I would assume that's what that means.
What is that called again?
Bug bounty hunting?
Bug bounty hunting.
That's if I go home and I find a bug, you'll send me some money for it.
That's what it sounds like.
You
Yes.
don't have to have a pen testing contract or anything like that?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I don't know. But if you go, I mean, we have a very, very large Reddit profile page, and I'm sure you'll be able to find all that information there. It's a giant community.
So, one question, the management, you were saying that it's kind of like with a GUI interface,
Yeah.
or you have the option like a CLI?
There's no
interface?
CLI option
Nothing.
at all.
Okay.
Do not give you that, because if we give you the CLI interface, it actually messes up the entire GUI system that we have.
Can we
There
do
is
the
one
dashboard?
for-
Because I think that's the really. big
I know,
part.
we're gonna get to
And
it.
all this is the preliminary.
I know.
The real reason you're
We're-
here is for the dashboard.
We're gonna get into it. I got a couple more things. I only got a few more slides, and then I'm gonna show you guys the dashboard. We'll tinker around with it. It'll be a very high level, and I'm sure you guys are gonna throw a lot of technical questions at me. I won't be able to answer, but I will try. All right, Meraki. Over half the new accounts that come into Meraki make a purchase, a secondary purchase, within 2 years. So if you buy from me today, there's a 45% chance you're coming back and you're buying more within a year. 54% you're coming back within 18 months, and there's a 60% chance you're coming back within 2 years. Why? People dip their toes with Meraki with a few access points, and then within a year or 2 years, they're coming back for either more access points, or maybe they're going to expand into switching, and then maybe they're going to expand into our UTM, or maybe they're going to expand into MDM. When you buy Meraki and you get a taste of it, it's like the first time you've ever picked up any sort of new technology and you got really addicted to it. You want more of it, and you want more simplicity across your network. The great thing for resellers, consultants, if you're making money on reselling equipment, is that the money that you make over time goes up. If you come and you spend $5,000 with me today, that number, if you come back within 12 months and buy more, should more than double. If you come back within a year and a half, that number should triple, and over 24 months, that number should nearly quadruple of what that account is going to spend with Meraki. Because again, they start with one thing, maybe a small AP launch, and then they come back and they say, cool, we're going to redo all of our APs in our entire network. Okay, that was great, now we're going to expand into switching, and then we're going to expand into security. And that number just continuously grows. So you wanted to know which products we offer. These are the products that we have today. We started back in 2006 with the wireless LANs. 2010, we came out with switches and our security appliances. 2014, our MDM solution, which we talked about a few times today. 2016, we came out with cameras and phones, and the future is unknown. And I wish that I knew more about that, but they literally do not give us a product roadmap for what is happening next, because they would rather listen to what the market is saying, not to say that they don't have their own internal product roadmap, but they don't tell us what that product roadmap is. Yes, sir?
When you say security appliance, I'm assuming you're talking about firewall, router.
Yes. Yes, so it is a firewall router in one. Again, we call it a UTM, Unified Threat
When you
Management.
say UTM, can you define what's included in that?
Depending on, with every one of these pieces of hardware, now this is very unique to Meraki, is there is a license that is required to go with it. That license gives you access to the cloud controller, so the dashboard that we're going to look at in a little bit, but it gives you access, 24/7 access to our support team. It also gives you every firmware update, every security update you're going to need, any feature that we come out with, and a lifetime warranty on every product except the phone and the security cameras, which you get a 1-year warranty on. Every other product, lifetime warranty as long as the license is intact. Now, with the security appliance, there's two different types of licensing, right? You have your one license, which is basically your router, and it's only for connectivity. It's good for VPN, it's good for routing, but that's really about it. Now, if you want more than that, if you want the IDS, IPS, which is intrusion detection and intrusion prevention, if you want malware protection, if you want content filtering, if you want antivirus, that comes in the advanced security license, which includes everything that was in the standard license. Does that make sense? And does that answer your question? Perfect. All right. I'm going to dive into the dashboard, which is what everybody wants to see. It's very pretty. Let's see. What's this over here? All right. Now, this is the very lovely Meraki dashboard. Where do I get near that? Well, that's okay. Ooh, I can see it here. This is nice. Okay, so here you're going to notice a couple of dots. This is our internal Meraki network, right? We have 3 different offices. We have an office here in Sydney, Australia, which you will see here. This red one here is our headquarters in San Francisco, which is where I work every day of the week. Get there bright and early, 6 a.m. And UK office right here. This is how we offer 24-hour, 7 days a week support, right? We have somebody in almost every corner of the globe. The beautiful thing about our support team is they are trained on every single product. We don't do tiered support, so the person who answers your phone call will handle your problem. You never get transferred over to somebody else who is smarter, better, wiser. We're all trained, or they are all trained on every single aspect of the product. So let's dive into I'll pick on the London office. Let's go across the pond, right? This is our London office here. Actually, let's do this. London.
Can you slide that a little to the right on the screen? Thank you.
I'm going to keep it a little over here because there's more information this way. This is really just saying what we're looking at, network-wide, security appliance, switching, wireless. This is the device itself. This is your overview. This is the first thing that you're going to see when you log into your Meraki dashboard. This is a very 40,000 foot overview of the entire network. We can see there are 725 clients connected to that device. We can look at the activity for the last day, the last couple of hours, week, month, etc. You can see that as people come in around 8 o'clock in the morning, it picks up, and then as they leave around 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon, it dies back down. Right. We can also go into looking at which applications are utilizing the majority of the network. Yes?
What percentage of your clients roughly use two-factor authentication to get into this website?
I don't have that stat. I know that we personally, like everybody in Meraki does, but I am unsure about how many other people.
Do you encourage it?
I would assume that our support team, whatever they are going through and helping them walk through, they would, because it is, again, security is our #1 priority. I talk about it in my demonstration, but I'm not the one who's going to walk them through installing it all and setting it all up. I would assume that is going to be our support team.
They do ask you, you can accept it or deny it, but they do ask you, so.
I believe it's part of the setup process.
You can't bypass it, you have to say yes or no.
Yeah, I believe it's part of the setup process.
Yep.
How was the 7,000?
Yeah, they'll do a phone, they'll
Yeah.
text.
Phone, like a text, and then you'll have to enter the code here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also with Meraki, I mean, since we're talking about people who can access this, you can have different permissions between admins, right? So if I'm the director of IT, I may kind of almost have like God mode, whereas I may give other people who work for me slightly less access, depending on what their functionality of their job is. All right. So from here, we can look at different applications that are going across our network. We'll see web-based email, Gmail here. You'll see Hotmail, etc. YouTube. We even see some Netflix on here, right? We're like, oh, why are you guys utilizing Netflix? So let's click on Netflix. Let's see all the people here who are looking at Netflix on the job. Oh, wow. These guys are all watching Netflix on their phones. All right, microphone, iPhone. Everybody's watching it on their phones. It seems like nobody's allowed to do it on the computer. So let's go over here. This guy's utilizing the most. It's 223 megabytes. 88% of the rule. He's killing it. Dan's iPhone. Hopefully he's watching a lot of Meraki videos. Yeah, he's watching training videos on his phone. But, you know, we can now dive into, so we just went from a global view of like every device and everything on the Meraki network down to Dan's iPhone because he's utilizing too much Netflix, right? And we see a lot of data here. Number one, if we zoom in a little bit, I can tell where Dan is. I know where he is. He's right here in this conference room, and he is probably watching a little bit of Netflix right here. You can see he's
big monitor.
yeah, I can even see. Is that live? This is live right now. This is what Dan's doing. I'm showing you actually right now what Dan is doing, right?
Right now?
Yeah, because it's 3 in the morning.
Oh well, yeah. His phone's there.
1 o'clock.
His phone is there.
Party time.
He was connected to our Meraki guest SSID. I can see which AP specifically he was last connected to. I can see the spike over here. This is probably where he did some of that Netflix viewing. And you know what? If I wanted to, we can come over here and I can customize these group policies. But so right here, this isn't a great one to show you because but in my San Francisco office, I have a policy that says no video. Now I can literally say, you don't get to watch Netflix anymore. Or I can throttle back his video. Maybe he's utilizing 10, 15 megs a second. And I don't mind that he watches Netflix on his lunch break, but I'm going to limit it to 1 megasecond. That's what you're going to get in order to watch your Netflix. I can limit those things and set up those policies here, and I can all of a sudden start adding people to that device based on their bandwidth abuse. Simple, easy. But again, so what did we just look at, right? Looked at the cloud, it's really simple to use, and we got the right data that we need in order to make an intelligent business decision, right? Dan's usage of Netflix may be throttling my web video chat that I'm supposed to be having. That's a mission critical part of my business. I'm in London trying to have a face-to-face conversation with my partner in San Francisco, but I'm getting some lag because Dan's over here watching the latest season of Game of Thrones on Netflix. I need to prioritize that bandwidth, and yes.
How did this map get drawn?
So with any of Meraki, if you send us your floor plans, we will upload them, or we will teach you how to upload your own floor plans, and then they will plot this out for you. Yeah, we do have to have your own floor plans in order to do this. And it's very nice, and the one reason why I like it so much is because sometimes some people come up and they go, I can't find this. I don't know where it is. Can you guys help me find it? And we can go in and locate it right over here. Right? Same thing with your phone. I can't find this. It's not anywhere at my desk. Like, oh, did you check on 3? It looks like it's in the bathroom on the countertop. Right? It triangulates between the access points. Yes. Yes. It's actually very intelligent. It's sort of creepy when I'm at work and doing this demo and it's picking me up and I'm like, no, I'm right there. That's where I'm sitting.
You need to have like 3 Meraki devices to do the
I believe so. I think you need at least 3 in order to triangulate it. Yeah. Otherwise, I think it'll give you a ballpark of where it's at, but I don't know if it'll be able to give you the exact location.
Are there breach stories about Meraki?
Breach stories?
Yeah.
Like basically like if somebody hacked us or anything like that? Not that I know of. I'm not saying that there isn't one out there. One of the stories that they tell us pretty often in order to go away from like how do we get breached, but in order to kind of like brag about how good we are. I forget if it was the WannaCry virus or the Heartbleed virus, but one of them, it was a vulnerability in one of the switches, and it was something that there was a security patch for. But if you know how switches work and how you update them now, if you have a new firmware, what do? Grab a thumb drive, plug it into your computer, download it, and you go individually to every switch and you upload that firmware, right? That's how you increase the security and get all your new firmware updates for your switches. That's how, I think it was the Heartbleed virus. I think it was the Target one. Is that the Heartbleed? Or is that the WannaCry? That was Heartbleed. There was a vulnerability in one of their switch ports, and they accessed that, and boom, all of a sudden now all this data is transmitted over to this hacker. Within 24 hours of the Heartbleed virus, every single Meraki switch in the entire world that was connected and had an updated license was absolutely protected, because we automatically pushed out a security update to every single one of those, and it didn't take anybody any time to go in and download anything and plug anything in. So I would argue that having this cloud version of this in some scenarios might be more secure than going in and trying to update these things one by one yourself. So we will look at this. So I was asked about configuration, and we will go over some of this stuff. So on every one of these tabs, and let's move this a little over just so we can kind of see, you're going to have like your overview of the network. You'll have your switches, your wireless, systems manager. We also have a security one, but we don't keep it in this dashboard. We keep it in another one, which I can show you in a bit. You have phones, cameras, organization. You're going to notice that there is a monitor. So this is everything we're going to look at. We're going to look at all the data here, and there's a configure column here, which is where you're going to make changes and configure all of your settings.
Excuse me, can I ask a question about the background there? Now, each line item on that background chart, that's a device or a router? Or
You're talking about here?
Yeah, each one of those.
These are clients. So this is every
computer, camera.
Computer, camera, phone, tablet, anything that is connected to the device that is not a switch, security appliance, router, etc. If it's not part of the infrastructure of the network, it's connecting to it. If it's a printer, it will be
So
on it.
that's broken down by individual license?
No, this is. I mean, once you're on here, once you're on our network, this is the first thing we looked at, right? So this was. Remember Dan's iPhone that was watching all the Netflix? He's on this list.
No,
right?
but I mean license in terms of underneath that license is a list of all those devices.
The license is for the appliance.
The license is for like our APs and our switches. That is not what these are the things that are connected to those APs and switches.
Okay.
Yes.
What I'm asking is how is that broken down? Is that everybody in the world?
This is everybody on your network.
Okay.
Yes, on your network here. Yes.
When you're generating this, are you going up to the cloud to get to your device, which then goes down and transfers this, or is this information being pushed and stored in the cloud by the nature of it being connected to your device?
Dashboard, everything you're looking at here is absolutely going to the cloud, grabbing that information and bringing it back down. The configuration does live on the device, but it's not a GUI system that looks very pretty for you. So if you go in and you make changes, in order to access any of this, you have to be connected to the cloud. So I am going into the internet, it's grabbing a copy of this network's dashboard and bringing it back to me.
But this lives in the cloud?
This lives in the cloud, absolutely.
So how do you configure a device? Like, what do you do? Can you configure a device for us? Can you mess up?
So I can show you. I can show you something here. So I'm going to start with wireless. It's what we're really known for. But again, keep in mind we do switches. We do a lot of other things, right? So something as simple as your SSID, right? Let's go and take a look at these SSIDs. We have 4 different SSIDs here.
Can you only configure only Cisco devices, or can you configure any other devices?
I can only configure Cisco Meraki devices, right? If you've got a Cisco Catalyst switch, I can't configure it. It can interact with our APs and our security appliances, but I certainly cannot go in and it won't have this pretty system, right? I can't configure anything in here that is not Meraki. Now, if it's a client device connected to it, I can see it, but I can't go and make any changes in Meraki unless it is a Meraki device.
But can you see traffic by protocol, or because you see stuff by devices, but what if I want to see TCP traffic or UDP traffic or
See, now you're getting too technical for
You
me.
can monitor anything, you can monitor everything. That's the left side, the right side is configured, you can only configure the Meraki. So monitor the whole network, whatever's on it.
Especially if it's going through like the security appliance, then I believe you'll be able to see anything that goes through that security appliance. If it's connected to the network, whether or not it's Meraki, as long as it's a Meraki security appliance, you see any and every traffic that goes into it. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, this is not, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm assuming in the configuration side, anything that ordinarily, minus a GUI has to be done with a, command line command.
Everything that is configured in Meraki is this. There is a command line interface on the background, but nobody has access to that.
What I mean is you have access to the same detail
Sure.
information, that's what I mean.
To an extent, I will say that there are certain instances where I have been on phone calls with sales engineers and then the IT guy, and he asks, hey, can I do X, Y, and Z? And we will say, like, unfortunately, we don't give you that granular layer. So, like, with security appliances, for instance, you have 3 options as far as like how high you want your security. What's most important? Connectivity most important? Is security most important? Or do you want a balance of the two? Those are the only options you have. You can't go in and tweak those at all.
So you don't have the same granularity, you don't
Correct.
have the same granularity of control as exists in the command line.
The way that we utilize this scenario or this metaphor, we call it the 2 Ferrari metaphor, right? And so you have 2 different types of Ferraris. You have the Formula One Ferrari that literally takes an entire pit crew to manage, right? There's so many knobs and buttons and things like that. And if you're part of that pit crew and you drive that car, you know exactly what all those things do, and you need that sort of granularity. Then you got the Ferrari that you can drive off the lot. Me, if I got in that car without that pit crew, and I've never driven that Formula One car before, I have no idea what in the world to do with that car. But I can get in behind the wheel of a Ferrari off the lot. This is the lot Ferrari. And the great thing about it is most people, they can drive the lot Ferrari. And that's all they really need. Now, there are people out there who do want the Formula One, and that's the Cisco on-prem. Those are the things that we call them nerd knobs, right? You want certain things to do. You want to get granular. And if you need that granularity, then the on-prem solution may be a better fit for you. Again, Meraki is not for every single solution, but we think it's for most people who want to simplify things.
In other words, why bother putting everything conceivable into the GUI?
Correct.
You're not going to use it right.
Yeah, if only like 0.2% of people are going to use it, we're going to just simplify it. Yeah.
Well, if we spin back to the access point, Cisco has their regular small business access point.
Yep.
They got a family of
Aeronet.
And now they've got the Meraki.
Correct.
Why each family and what the differences are?
To be honest, so again, I think that we're talking more about like, do you need that granularity? With the small,
what does Meraki bring that the others don't have?
As far as hardware is concerned, there is very little, if at all, any difference between our APs and any other AP on the market, or our switches and any other switches on the market. I'm not going to sell you my switch because it is vastly superior to a Cisco or Juniper switch. The value prop of Meraki is this, is the simplicity of organizing it, configuring it, remotely deploying it. One of my favorite things about Meraki is multi-locations. If I am a business that has 5 or 6 different locations, the great thing is if you decide to deploy an entire Meraki network, you can drop ship everything you need. I can take all the APs I need for a location, all the switches for a location, all the security appliances. I can send them to those 5 locations, and while they're in transit, they're literally in a truck, I have access to this cloud, and I can start configuring every one of those devices as they're moving across the country. I can configure one AP, and I can clone every single other one of those AP in a matter of seconds. I can configure the switches and clone the rest of the switches. Same thing with my security appliances. That way, once I get them, I plug them in, it connects to the internet, and that configuration is automatically uploaded to every single device, and your network is on and running in a matter of minutes. That is the simplicity that we offer.
But that is a failure point, because there were times when you plug it in and maybe not so much an access point, but routing type of equipment doesn't have access to the internet until it is configured and running. So it's a little bit of I've been in those situations.
Sure. As far as I have seen, I have configured my own router. I've got a small Meraki full stack. I did the configuration online. I plugged in. Within 5 minutes, that thing was online, up and running.
Because it could connect to the internet.
Yeah,
To
the
get
first
that-
thing you have to do is, again, if it's just a box, then one device that connects to the internet. You're either gonna go DHCP, which you get the address automatically, or you'll go into a console and set up the static IP address that you need. Once you do that, once you have connectivity, everything starts flowing down.
And more likely, it's a static IP address because it's an infrastructure node. And you're not necessarily gonna know that until you go to set it up.
Correct. And the great thing about it is if you ever run into any issue, you know you have 24 hours, 7 days a week support, 365 days a year. You pick up the phone call, you're one call away from having somebody install and help you walk through all of this for you.
Because I've been in that position.
So something as simple as SSIDs, right? We're going to go in and we're going to configure some SSIDs. Right here we have our Meraki Corp. I have enable, disable. It's that easy. I can rename just by coming over here, renaming the SSID itself. You can see some information about it here, but let's just go in and edit some of the settings. Very, very simple, right? Network access. I need WPA2 Enterprise, and I have a Radius server here, right? So this is something that a lot of larger corporations will have. Some people don't necessarily have that. Some people just want a straight up pre-share key. I can just come over here and I can make this semi-complicated password or not very complicated password. With most corporations, we utilize a Radius server, or you can even do Mac-based access. Make sense? Splash pages. So we get this question a lot with somebody like Starbucks, right? Like, oh, hey, we want to offer guest access, but we want them to accept some terms of and conditions, right? You can have a splash page here. Other people may want to charge for their internet access. We are not going to design that for them, but if they want to make that splash page and make that available, that they can absolutely do that here. A lot of different splash page options.
Right?
Yep.
Just in that kind of, I open a coffee shop and I want to offer wireless internet access. I call up Meraki Sales and I say, you guys still do small businesses? Now that you're hit the big time, you say, sure.
Of course.
So just so we have a sense of the market and how things work. If I buy a Meraki device and I buy the license and I buy the 24/7, 365 days support for 5 years, or you do a term of like 2 years or 1 year?
We do 1, 3, 5, 7, and 10-year options.
Okay, so I do a 5-year option. Can you tell me how much it will cost for my coffee shop to be Meraki empowered?
You can find, so here's what I'll tell you. I specifically don't like talking about price because, number one, I don't sell direct to clients. I cannot sell directly to any customer. I have to go through a reseller, right? So you can go online right now. You can see any and every one of our MSRP pricing, right? But if you look at that price, that's probably not what you're going to pay unless you have a reseller who is just going to sell it to you at that price, but that basically means they put a lot of margin on top. I don't talk price because I'm going to give that reseller a discount, but I don't know what margin he's putting on top of it. I don't know if he's putting 5 points or 20 points on top
What
of it.
is the reseller adding in this situation?
The reseller is adding, number one, the ability to just sell it to them. So I think you have your larger, let's call them your PC connections and your CDWs. Those guys, all they do is sell a product, right? So those guys, you probably will go there for a lower level of service. I just want to get the best deal possible, right?
Because you don't need service, right? Because you provide service, right?
Well, yeah, but you need somebody to buy it from because you can't buy it from me. That's really the only service that they're providing, other than potentially recommending, hey, we don't know what to build, right? CDW and Connection, they've got their own staff who can say, all right, based on your build out, how much bandwidth, what kind of applications you're using, here's the bill of materials we recommend.
But, so then now I'm a little puzzled. So if I'm one of your customers and I want to know what to do,
sure,
I would have to get that advice from a reseller, not directly.
You can come directly to me, but that is a service that they do provide.
Which wouldn't you recommend coming to you?
You certainly can, but then I can't sell it to you. I have to go through some sort of reseller.
So you then tell us you give us the product list basically, then we go to a reseller and buy the stuff.
I can give you, we have sales engineers that can build it out for you.
Yeah.
But some of my customers do not want to, they have a relationship with a partner, and they don't really want to talk to anybody else. They're like, listen, Dan, I come to you, and I just want you to handle everything for me. I don't want to talk to anybody else. And that is a service that they provide. Yes.
Yeah, as I say, the reseller will typically help configure it and do the initial setup with the customer, teach the customer, what the best practices are, for the configuration, how to navigate around the dashboard.
9 times out of 10, your people like CDW are going to come to me to try and get their customer the best price and then put a little bit of margin on top. Your smaller resellers may be somebody who, okay, not only am I going to help you buy the equipment and get you the best price, but I'm also going to charge you because I'm going to come in and install everything for you.
Right.
That's outside of Meraki. I'm not going to go out there and do that for them. And then you also have the MSPs, the managed service providers, who not only install everything, but then they manage the entire Meraki dashboard for them. Because they're like, listen, man, I'm a dentist. I don't even care about that. I just want to do dental work. You do everything else to make this stuff work for me. When I have a problem, I'm going to call the MSP. And the MSP can typically troubleshoot some things that I actually even calling our support team.
And the reseller can also integrate products from different companies.
Yeah,
So
we have
they'll
API.
peacefully coexist.
Yeah, we have APIs, so if they want to build some sort of API into our program, they can certainly do that as well, yes.
What kinds of programs and what kind of requirements do you have for smaller resellers like some of the people in this room?
Honestly, all we need is for you to be, number one, a Cisco reseller, which is as long as you have a business tax ID number, a business name, and you know what you're doing. You have to be a Cisco reseller. Number 2, you have to be a Meraki reseller, which again, it's another application process. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that is all for me today. Thank you for having me. Thank you again.